Thank you again for being here today. I want to ask you a question about Lyme disease tests. Coming from New England, and particularly as Lyme disease spreads more rapidly into some of the northern New England states, Maine has seen a very high incidence in the disease and has many concerns about the handling, the treatment, the diagnosing of the disease. So I just want to say I share some of the administration's concerns about the changing nature of laboratory-developed tests and stories we've heard about false reports or questionable interpretations. Many of us have heard about these from our constituents. So I'm glad to be revisiting the issue of their regulation in light of the expanded role that LDTs now play in our healthcare system, but I'm also concerned about how the FDA's exercise of authority in this area is going to impact patient access to new testing technology. For example, I know that there's a great deal of attention that's been paid to LDTs for Lyme disease and questions about the accuracy of unapproved tests. I agree that having accurate and reliable test results is certainly critically important, and the risk associated with inappropriate or delayed treatment are grave. I'd also like to mention that the accuracy of the two-tiered testing system recommended by the CDC and cleared by the FDA is far from perfect. Both tests, now I'm talking technically out of my range here, but the ELISA and the Western blot have the potential to yield false results. In light of the lack of certainty about current testing methods, I don't blame people who have symptoms of Lyme disease for looking at other options in order to find out what's making them sick. So with that in mind, just a couple of questions about the FDA oversight framework for the LDTs. How will you ensure there's a level playing field that will allow effective new tests will be available to consumers without unnecessary delays? And can you detail how the administration currently monitors adverse events from existing Lyme tests and how they're addressed?
Well, as I think you probably know, we're in a process of reviewing the oversight of LDTs, an area where we, over a period of many, many years, exercised enforcement discretion because laboratory-developed tests, when FDA first got authority to regulate diagnostics, were mainly tests that were developed within a laboratory in a given facility for use in that facility, sometimes as a part of research and sometimes care, but they were relatively simple tests and they weren't being marketed elsewhere. Since that time, the world has changed dramatically, and laboratory-developed tests are now being developed and marketed broadly. They are often much more complex diagnostic tests that are being used as the basis for really critical medical decisions. And there's an increased number of these tests as well. So we felt it was a critical time, based in part because we were getting more and more reports of faulty tests that didn't do what they said they did. And we think that to serve the American people and their health, we need to make sure that diagnostics that will then lead to critical medical decisions about treatment, about other potential risks or activities, need to be overseen in terms of both analytical validity and clinical validity. So we have proposed a risk-based, phased-in approach, really focusing on the high-priority laboratory-developed tests. And our goal is to have a level playing field, to have any test that's used for a critical medical decision to be demonstrated to do what it says it does and to be accurate and reliable. And we feel that actually that will help to support innovation, because that's the criteria the American people want, and it certainly isn't good for anyone to have one set of product developers going through the FDA oversight and demonstrating that their diagnostic works, and others being able to just make the laboratory test without that same degree of rigor. So our goal is really not to try to make fewer tests available, but to just work with the producers of these tests to have them provide the data that's needed to do the assessment. But the critical thing is that we are in a process of learning more. We did a proposed guidance, and now we are responding to the comments that came in, the comment period closed on the 2nd of February of this year, I think, and we did get a lot of comments, many detailed comments, and we've spent a lot of time listening to stakeholders and hearing different perspectives. And, you know, we will proceed, but with the best interests of the patients in mind and with a desire to be able to support new and better tests that will make an important difference for health.
Great. Well, thank you for your answer, and my time is up, but I'll just again reiterate that, you know, I've learned a lot about this process. I appreciate that you're looking into how to make sure it's a level playing field, and I know when it comes to diseases like Lyme, which are very hard to diagnose, people want all the tools available to them, and then they want to know that they're accurate, and that's important. So,
my colleagues just sent me a note, if I may, just to underscore that, you know, because the patient is our focus, that as we've been thinking about this problem, when there's an unmet medical need and there isn't an LDT, there isn't an approved diagnostic through the traditional pathway, you know, we would exercise enforcement discretion for LDTs in that domain, but we certainly have been concerned about the problems you outlined with Lyme disease and other diagnostics where patients haven't been well served.
thank you.